Good morning, traders. It is 8:02 a.m. Chicago time, coming at you from the River North region of the city of Chicago, River North neighborhood. Love this neighborhood. Moved away from the Board of Trade, if you recall, back in September. This is episode number 2343. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of October. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This morning, looking at the markets, we have a market that is mildly risk off to mixed. It is mixed now. It's pushing a little bit higher. The S&P is only down 7 points, which is less than one full rotation. So pretty much unchanged from yesterday's settlement. We've got a lot on deck in terms of earnings. We just have a ton. Valero came out this morning, missed earnings by 7%. General Motors beat by 19%. General Motors beat by 19%. Amazing. And then Centene came in plus 4%. United Parcel Service, UPS, beat by 4%. Archer Daniels Midland Company beat by 32%, beat earnings by 32%, and revenue by 10%, just raking in big money there. General Electric missed by 30%, and Raytheon beat by 6%, and Novartis is pretty much online. Coca-Cola beat by 7.8%, came in at 69 cents versus 64 cents. 3M beat by 2.67%. UBS beat by 67%. UBS Group beat by 67%. This isn't a startup, folks. This is a major bank. Major Swiss bank beating by that much, just wow. And then the rest, there's Sherwin-Williams, Halliburton, and so on. That's before the market opens. After the market closes today, we have some of the majors, namely Alphabet. Alphabet's expected to come out at $1.26 on $70.94 billion in revenue. Microsoft's expected to come out at $2.32 on $49.84 billion. And then Chubb is expected to come out at $3.55 at $2.91 billion. And then Visa, $1.87 at $7.57 billion, and so on and so forth. Just find an earnings calendar. We are in the thick of earnings, and the earnings in Q4 were expected to be the earnings announcements in Q4 were expected to be off. The expectation is these companies are likely to announce worse. So overall, that's not really happening. As it says right there, the main risk events, large earnings before and after market open today. New UK Prime Minister takes office, is expected to make a speech at some point this morning, my time. The BOE, there's a poll of the Bank of England, and it showed that the expected peak rate on the bank rate is 4.25%. There's an expectation of a 75 basis point hike in November. The current rate's 2.25, so there's an expectation of quite a bit here, about 2 points to 200 basis points increase in terms of the peak rate on the Bank of England. Quite significant as these banks, central banks, are really competing with each other. This morning, in terms of calendar events, we had the IFO Business Climate out of Germany. It came in at 84.3, much more aggressive than the 81.5. The DAX is currently slightly down. We did get the Case-Shiller home price year on year for August, and it's still really hot. It was expected at 15%, the prior 16%, but it came in at 13.1%. 13.1% year on year increase in home prices still very inflationary. And then this evening, we get the inflation rate out of Australia, expected at 6.5%, the prior 6.1. That brings us back to the S&P. The S&P has really a double distribution profile. We'll look at the chart in 1 minute. The inventory is 50% short. We've got pretty tight range. We're trading inside of yesterday's range. We're trading inside of value. Only 28 points of range on 257,000 contracts. That's got to perk up your ears a little bit because it's saying that there was very little discovery in the overnight session, not much news flow coming out of Asia and Europe to move us around, likely to result in a pretty sluggish open, or we're compressing for a big move. We just don't know until it opens. But it looks pretty sluggish to me currently. Again, the point of control at 3,800, 3,800.5. So we're accepting higher prices. We're about 100 points higher, a little over 100 points higher than where we were last week. Let's look at the charts. But I do want to remind you that we will be voting. We will be voting today on these event contracts. The idea behind this is to bring attention to this cash-based product. I would like you to take a moment to vote. Just type in eclear.me, standing for EdgeClear, eclear.me/event-voting. I would like to get at least 100 votes. We're going to put the positions on this morning. So it'd be great if you can just take a moment to vote. And the way we're using these is very simple. We're just looking at the closest strike, and we're placing a prediction as to whether it'll close above or below that price. We pay a certain price for that, and the return is $20 on every trade. And we're going to do that across 5 products: the ES, NQRTY, crude, and 6E. The program might change depending on the participation, but the goal is to raise money. We've already deposited $10,000 into an account, and just as a meaningful thing about this was last Thursday's poll. This is how you voted, and we ended up getting 3 wins, 1 loss. We didn't put a position on in the 6E. We netted about, $12 or something like that with commissions included. So this is the idea behind this, is to do this on a continuous basis and to raise a little bit of money for charity. In either case, we're giving away the value of the account on December 30th. Whatever is in there, including the initial $10,000 deposited, will be sent to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. But instead of just giving it away, we want you to participate in helping us increase its value. If it doesn't increase, that's okay. But overall, I'd like your participation in this because I want you to be aware of these products. I have a way to trade these products. We'll cover that at some point. But for now, I just want you to vote if possible. So here's what happened yesterday in the S&P. The S&P played scenario 2 yesterday. Couldn't quite get to the 40 up here. It was a struggle. If you traded yesterday, you probably noticed that it was just a very slow kind of chug up the VWAP line yesterday. Just continuously chugging along. It did take out the prior highs predicted. And we finished in what was a multi-distribution, somewhat balanced profile yesterday. We ended up pushing through that 38.14 that I was targeting on scenario 2. It was 38.14, 19.5, and then the big target yesterday was 40. The range was not all there yesterday. We didn't quite get as much range as we would like to see yesterday, but overall the market performed as expected. The primary scenario was to go up, consolidate, pull back and hold sideways. I really didn't have much expectation in terms of what we're going to get yesterday. So we ran up on Friday. We had a continuation overnight. We pulled back overnight, and then as soon as we opened, we showed strength throughout. We just traded in an upward channel. But I could tell you that it was a pretty contested trade on the way up. You could see the bubbles here every time it made a high. Some limit offer flow was coming in and absorbing some of that, and that's why you're seeing these blue dots at the highs. Every high gets a bunch of blue dots. In order for blue dots to take place, blue dots represent a 100-lot trade using MBO data. In other words, we're assembling trades back to what they were when the button was clicked or the order was sent. 100 lots or better will give us a blue dot. In order for a blue dot to exist, there has to be something on the offer that's 100 lot or bigger. So as you see blue dots, it is important to see price move, just like you see here, blue dots, and then price shoots up. But if a blue dot occurs at the high, this is a high probability reversal with some price action parameters. This is a high probability reversal. If done in a stock zone like we saw yesterday at 38.90, yesterday was 38.1950. This is a pretty strong setup for me personally. And yesterday we saw a lot of that. The point being, we just saw a contested move up. The overnight session, we ended up closing inside of the IB yesterday, just inside of the IB, and just kind of sitting sideways. We opened up, we tested higher. We did not test yesterday's high. Then we sold off to the middle of yesterday's range, basically, and then just have been sideways. We've got somewhat of a double distribution profile here now. We have like 3 distributions. Again, it's a dude smoking a cigarette here. Boop, boop, boop. The line in the sand this morning early on was right here, the one that was just broken at 38.05. 38.05 is the line of the sand, and we have pushed above. What we have here is a low volume, low range overnight session that is kind of trading against itself, and it's very likely to be a choppy open today. We may see this as a coiling, for a break higher. From here, one-time framing is up. As it will be established higher today, and we may continue higher. But to me, I don't have too many expectations in terms of what today's going to do. The point of control, the overnight point of control is down here. The VWAP and mid are on top of each other, an indication of some balancing. And then we are up against the prior settlement, so the S&P is basically unchanged on the session right now. You can see the settlement's at 38.09 quarter, and it's trading at 38.07. It's pretty much unchanged. So the market's basically saying, look, we had nothing to price in given the overnight, since yesterday's close, and through the Asian and European session, we've moved around a little bit, but we're basically coming back to where we were yesterday, and we're returning to our starting point despite the relatively strong releases from General Motors and so forth. It's all kind of baked in. That's what the market's saying. This is all baked in, and therefore I expect that theme to continue into today's open. So be cautious on today's open. Again, I always recommend, for those who are not consistent, aren't very seasoned, I always recommend that you don't trade the first 15 to 30 minutes. Let the market decide what it wants to do. Let it set up, and that before you decide to move on. I want to remind you to vote. Look in the live chat. Let me see how many votes there are. Let's see if you guys are actually participating. refreshing the results here. 95 votes. We need 100 to put these positions on. I need 5 votes to put this position on. So let's look at the relative delta. Here's the relative delta. The relative delta is positive for large and small lots, these being on the same size. Very large lots just came into play. This is very supportive of a test of the overnight high, in my opinion. So we're likely to see a higher high versus yesterday here. This is likely to continue to push higher. The delta overall is not that massively higher, but you can see there isn't one class of participants controlling delta like we often see. This is quite supportive of a continuation on this impulse higher. So I expect it to chop around in this 38.09 quarter. I expect it to consolidate on the open. I expect it to pull back just a bit, and then I'm expecting it to make to continue to make a push for that high from yesterday, which is around 38.22, something like that. Okay. The big picture, the TPO chart, what is it showing? It's showing that we did exactly what was expected. We moved from the lower distribution, lower balance here. We shifted from down here to up here on Friday. The expectation is we would likely trade in this balance. Look at what it did yesterday. Perfectly balanced, sitting right on top of this. We have tested the heck out of this lower distribution. Okay, a better chart to look at is probably this one. Okay, so we've tested the heck out of this. Let's include Friday in this profile. So we have gone down, moved up, bounced for 3 days, moved down, bounced for whatever, 9 days, something like that, down here. And we are starting to shift away from this balance back to this upper balance. To me, this is very likely to continue higher towards that 38.75, 38.90 area. I'm expecting it to come back and test this balance here. And you can see that that balance right there from September 18th has a lot of kurtosis, has a lot of acceptance in the middle. And so my expectation is we would likely see ourselves continue to walk slowly towards that 38.75, 38.90, 38.90 being the volume-based balance up there. So as I squish this, let's switch to a 30-minute. And let's get our scenarios up, and let's move to voting and putting the positions on. You have just a few more minutes, 5 more minutes to vote if you're going to vote. This morning, the expectation, let it load the data. In fact, yep. It's going to pull in a whole crap ton of data here. The expectation this morning, open auction, pull back a little bit. This is a little bit too much range. Where is 1 Vol Sigma? Wow, it's way up there. Okay, so this morning, the expectation, open auction, pull back a little bit, expecting an impulse continuation higher, consolidate, looking for yesterday's high to be taken, right up here. Looking for yesterday's high to be taken. I'm looking for it to finally push into this 38.40. It's 38.40. Now we're in that thin, if you recall from the prior screen, the TPO, we're moving from a thick to a thin area, and we're likely to move into the thick area back into 38.75. So this may go quite quickly, and then the goal is to get to 75 up here. Not likely to do so today, given the range limits and given the poor range in the overnight session. The secondary scenario, open auction, moves higher. It dissipates the energy from buyers early on, runs out of energy, becomes responsive down to the open, consolidates, and then starts to recheck yesterday's range. In this case, I'm not expecting it to move as easily down as it has up here. It is very likely to shift down into that 37.68, 37.70 area before it rests. Those are the two key scenarios. I'm expecting scenario one to play out. I'm looking for 38.40. My job on the open is to measure how it's moving up versus down and to jump on the long, targeting yesterday's high at 22-ish. And then once it clears at 22, you got to hang in there. You got to shut down the noise and then wait for it to push forward to 38.40. The market's currently coiling. This is expected to continue. Again, I would like you to take a moment to vote. Last chance here as I pull up the screen to look at your votes and to put on these positions. We are polling, voting for charity. We're putting on these positions live in these event contracts, which have a $20 risk with a $20 max risk with a $20 max gain. And we're going to look at your poll results here and see what you guys have voted for. All right, so here it is. So these are the event contracts. Looking at the poll, we have 151 votes. The expectation for the ES is higher. We don't have a one-to-one. So we're on that 3,800. The NQ, we're looking at, yes, we're looking at a yes that it'll likely close. So we're buying that for $11. The Russell, we've got 124 votes. We're looking at a strong yes in the Russell. These are not meeting the one hour requirement. It's fine. The crude is surprising, 127 votes. 48% expect long for it to close above 85, and 52% expect a no. We're going to go with no on this one. And in the 6E, we have 114 votes. 55% expect yes. That takes it. Those positions are now on. You can see they've been completed, and we'll report back to let you know how those played out. Please take a moment to hit the like button and to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you for participating in the vote. We will catch you with the results after the close today. They'll be posted on EdgeClear's YouTube channel and tweeted out, and we'll talk about them a little bit tomorrow. Good luck.